surprised we're live. If the 5 people that watch this group are watching now, you're also going to watch something fun today. Today is a special February. It's still February, right, Nick? Yep.
Still February.
February crossover episode, since we did one in December. We didn't do one in January, but we're here in February talking about fraud, debt, and dads or fatherhood or one of those. We only have about 25 minutes to do it because we were having too much fun talking to ourselves. But if you're on, like the video however you can, because we're on a bunch of different platforms. Subscribe to the channel if you're not. Comment. Maybe there's something you'd like us to comment about. But Adam, today on our call, I opened up with a little bit of heavy kind of conversation talking about all the ways people create debt. And I would be curious to get your feedback and Nick's feedback live on the different ways I've encountered agents creating debt. Then we'll get into fraud and then the fatherhood part along the way. How's that sound, Adam?
Sounds good. It's an exciting topic, talking about debt and chargebacks, but preventing chargebacks too. I mean, we talked about that, I think, a week or two ago on one of the trainings.
Yeah.
So, but one thing I think when it comes to debt, I think a lot of guys create debt by writing with too many companies. They don't really focus on one main carrier, and they're spreading their business out all over the place. One thing I found in the past, it's like a lot of the guys we work with, they're on a, almost like a fixed income, or they have bills, they have a car payment, they have a mortgage, just all these other things. And it's like they write a piece of business, they pay their mortgage, and then they get hit with a chargeback. Well, they still have to make their car payment. So then they're going to write with the next company, and then maybe that piece of business falls off, and then they're going to write with the next company. And then all of a sudden they have debt with like 3 or 4 or 5 different companies. And it's like, if they were just consistent with writing with that one, it's like you have enough kind of in the pipeline to not have to worry about nearly as much debt or chargebacks, in my opinion.
I agree. Nick, I want to get your feedback on debt from a Medicare side in a minute, because it isn't nearly as in-depth of an issue. But the biggest reason, I have a couple, that I think debt is created starts off with extended inactivity. Now, Nick, I know you take a lot of trips, you go a lot of places, but you also put a lot of time in the field. Have you found that agents start to create their own debt issues because they're inactive and not working on a weekly basis?
Well, yeah, I mean, so like when Adam was talking there, I'm thinking about like even if you're writing multiple carriers, because sometimes you need to write multiple carriers. It's important to write the correct carrier for any given situation, but you should be writing enough every single week that it doesn't matter what carrier you're writing. You should be getting enough activity every single week that even if you write 3 apps with one company and 4 apps with another company and 2 apps with yet a third company, and you lose a couple of those, well, you've still written, like, what did I say? 3, 4, and 2. So you've still written 9 policies. Did I do that math right? And so yeah, maybe you lose 3 of those 9. And well, okay. So now you've got 6 policies that are still paying you, which should still be enough to pay your bills. I mean, if you're doing it right, if you're not selling, $15 a month premiums, you should still be able to pay your bills off of six policies a week. If you're giving enough presentations, and you have a presentation that works, you should be fine as long as you're giving enough presentations, right? This has always been my thing. If you're giving 12 presentations a week, even if you only close half of them, and that's not great, but that's not terrible, that's pretty middle of the road. If you're only closing half of them, you're still making 6 sales a week. You have to be doing something extremely wrong to be losing if you're making 6 new sales every single week. It doesn't matter what company you write. Yes, I think you should probably have a lead company. Yes, you should probably focus in on a handful of companies that you work with. You should not be spreading your business across 25 different companies. That's not good for anybody. But just just keep writing business. Like if you just keep writing business and you treat your debt as though it is debt and not something that you are going to have just get paid back off out of your commissions. And you have a weekly salary that you're making because, hey, I know every single week I'm getting $5,000 deposited into my checking account from somewhere. Maybe it's not the same company every week, but from somewhere I'm getting $5,000 a week. Boy, I hope you don't live a lifestyle where you are required to spend $5,000 a week in order to make ends meet. If you are living that kind of lifestyle, you probably shouldn't have this sort of problem with debt, right?
Yeah.
If your nut is $250,000 a year, otherwise you're homeless, something has like that's not where you should be when you're starting off in final expense,
Yeah.
selling final expense.
Later on, I think that's an appropriate nut to crack. I like nuts. I like
Sure.
M&Ms, all of those things. But at that point, you should have learned to evolve your business. I
Right.
remember a guy that will remain nameless, although he probably should be named because I don't think he's in the business, so he shouldn't be named anyway, that had this philosophy where he would even say to me, I don't work to live. I don't live. What is it?
I don't live to work,
live.
I work to live. Or
One of
something.
those. One of those, the lazy version of those.
Yeah.
And he would go out there and he would write 7 to 10,000 in a week and then be gone for 2 or 3 weeks. Turns out half of that 7 to 10,000 was fraudulent business anyway, writing multiple applications on the same person. But just the concept alone was flawed, where he would write a lot of insurance one week and then be gone for several other weeks. And then eventually what would end up happening is all he was doing was writing off the debt from the last time he worked when he went back to work. It was just this cycle of that shit doesn't work that I was watching take place.
Yeah, that's nonsense. Like why this is still your job, right? So I've been doing a deep dive into my own personal business recently because I'm looking to put some places in to scale some stuff going forward for the rest of the year. And one of the things that I was looking at is like hiring a few people to like work for me in my office, right? Like full-time W-2 employees, not sales agents, but like secretaries, bookkeepers, that kind of thing. And one of the things that came up while I was talking to somebody about like how to go about hiring an employee, because I don't have a lot of employees. I haven't done a lot of hiring. Is say to your employee, like, this is not a job that has flexibility, right? I need you, if you're going to be working for me, you work for me from 9 to 5 Monday through Friday, and you are expected to be in the office from 9 to 5 Monday through Friday. If that is not the type of job that you can have, then this is not going to be a good fit, and that's okay. If you are selling and you are not like already wealthy, like you're not making it, like this is new to you, this is your job, guys. Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, 9 to 6, 9 to 10. Like, you should be doing this every day. You should not be having days like take a weekend off, but like work days, like you're working every work day. You're not working like Monday and then maybe I'll work Tuesday and then maybe, yeah, I made $10,000 this week, I'm not going to work the rest of the month. That doesn't work.
No.
I remember when I first got started, I was working with Combined Insurance, and they would talk about the system and how in order to make the system work, you needed to front load stuff into the system. And the front loading into the system was your presentations and your activity. And they would say, if you're having a bad sales week, but you're doing all the activity that you're supposed to be doing, the system owes you and it will come good eventually. Just keep putting stuff into the system. The system owes you, it'll pay you back. But if you're making a lot of money and you're not putting in the activity, well, you owe the system. And if you are in a situation where you owe the system, that bill's going to come due soon also. And you're going to start having bad weeks too. You have to be consistent with your activity. It's the single most important thing. There is nothing more important.
Now, Adam, I want your perspective on this one, since we're kind of round robining the most common issues I've noticed with debt. Excuse me. We've already covered that one. Unethical and illegal action. I know we've kind of covered this in multiple platforms, multiple channels, multiple trainings, but you shared a story this morning about a guy at one of your prior organizations that was writing a boatload of business, but it didn't smell right. And if it doesn't smell right, it probably isn't right. Why don't you share that story as we talk about unethical and illegal action being one of the most common reasons debt exists?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think that communication is very important too. I mean, when you're working with agents, my whole thing, I want to know where the business is coming from. If I'm bringing somebody on, I mean, for one thing, I feel much more comfortable if they're part of some sort of lead program where I know that they have leads coming in on a regular basis. Then I feel pretty good when I see people putting up good numbers. But if they're putting up a bunch of premium and I have no idea where that business is coming from, it is a little shaky. And especially like in that scenario, yeah, I brought this guy on. I'd say probably the first couple weeks, like total, the guy, I think he was writing about maybe 10 grand a week. And even like after the first few days, I see this business coming in and I'm trying to get a hold of the guy. You know, I'm calling him. He's not answering his phone. I try texting him. He's not responding. To me, right away, that's a red flag. If they're not going to pick up the phone when they know that you are like there to help them and to say, hey, congratulations, you're having a good week. And they're not willing to talk to you. Like I said, that's a big red flag. And so after, I don't know, I'd say probably after that first week of just total non-communication, the numbers were great. He was putting up good numbers. I had no idea where that business was coming from. He was not answering my calls, responding to my text messages. And I put the guy on as earned. And, you know, all of a sudden, you wouldn't believe it. The guy, you know, gives me a call.
Surprise.
You know, he's avoiding me. And then all of a sudden you start messing with his money and he's willing to talk to me. So, and I think those are just some steps that we have to take when we're working with people to protect ourselves. If it, like you said, if it doesn't smell right, you got to go with your gut. You know, if it doesn't feel right, you're probably right. And sometimes you see that, I know just, I've seen managers, you know, guys I worked with my prior company that had guys under them where these guys would be putting up big numbers. And I always, you know, yeah, I feel great. You know, that's really good, but we always want to know where the business is coming from. And I mean, I had an opposite situation of that. The guy was just real slick. One of my managers, guy working under him, where he was just real slick, real friendly. He was cool with everybody. No one would have thought anything that the guy would be doing stuff the wrong way. But we, you know, we realized, you know, all this business this guy was writing, he was like putting incorrect information, addresses. A lot of the signatures looked alike on the applications, and his upline, like the guy that was under me, he wanted to keep the guy going, and I had to just kind of put a halt at it. And I ended up terminating the guy. And in the end, my manager was happy that I did, because he kind of got light of it then too and saw what was going on. And I mean, you just gotta, I don't know. I hate to have to say that we have to be detectives sometimes, but I feel like we do have to protect ourselves, and we got to know where that business is coming from. And I kind of feel like that's always been part of my job, is just kind of having to play detective to keep up with that business, to make sure it's good business and that people are doing stuff the right way. So that's business that's going to stay on the books. I mean, we talk about advanced commissions. I mean, heck, I don't want to have to pay back a loan. And that's basically what it is. If someone's writing bad business, then all this money's coming in and you just end up having to pay back. And that's no fun either.
See, we got a comment live here. We've got a good audience this afternoon, which I appreciate. If you're watching, hi, thanks for being on. Throw us a comment, subscribe to the big channel, Insurance Life and everything in between, if you're not already, and then share this out. Leave a comment if you want something for us to discuss. But Rob Boyd said, I had an agency owner from another organization tell me that if he can prove there is fraud, then he wouldn't be responsible for the debt from the carrier. And then he says, I spoke with a carrier rep about this, and he said the insurance company doesn't go after them criminally, but the clients the fraud was against are the only ones that can go after the agent. See, here's the problem, and I appreciate your comment, Rob. Who the frick has the time to play detective, private investigator, lawyer, all of that stuff just to go after 10, 15, or 20,000. I think that's kind of as big as it gets before you can really nip it in the bud in some cases. But Nick, I'm busy. I know you're busy. Adam, I know you're incredibly busy too. Who the frick has the time to do all of these other debt chasing responsibilities?
But I mean, I would tell you, like, this is a story I've told before because it's a story that horrifies me, and so I've probably told it on this YouTube channel before. I know I've definitely told it on the Insurance Panel YouTube channel and other places. I have a friend of mine who is in this business who was never looking to have a downline. He's with a different IMO than I am with. And that IMO is a downline building IMO. And they said to him, "Hey, we've got an agent that's local to you. And we are going to we want you to help train him. We'll put him under you. You can make a little bit of an override. We'll you'll be 20 points above him and you'll make a little bit of an override and train this guy." And this guy, I guess, had a gambling problem, or maybe he had some other problems. But after about a year, this guy started writing business with one of the carriers that uses DocuSign and an instant decision and pays on issue. And he wrote, in the course of about 3 weeks, he wrote about $60,000 of premium, got advanced on it, all 60,000 not taken. None of the people knew because all it was people who he had met with previously throughout the year. He'd collected their banking information because they'd bought policies from him before. And he just wrote them a policy and then the very next day not took it and took the cash and then terminated all of his contracts and said, "Haha, I've got my money," and walked away. And rolled up to my friend $60,000. Now my friend called him up and said, "Why are you doing this to me? This is a horrible thing that you've just done." And the guy said, "Oh, well, if I had known that it was going to affect you, I wouldn't have done it. I thought I was just sticking it to the insurance companies." And so my friend pursued criminal action against this guy. They were able to get call the DA and get the Department of Insurance involved. And unfortunately, you're right, there isn't actually a whole lot that ends up being able to be done. This guy is not, he is not in jail for committing forgery. He's not in jail for committing any kind of fraud. He is now paying off his debt. He got threatened with legal action, and so is paying off his debt. But this was 4 years ago, and my friend is still in a payment plan to have this debt paid off by this subagent that he was more or less stuck with once upon a time. And I don't know. It's not a great system. There's all sorts of weird crap that can go wrong, and there's all sorts of things that can happen faster than you would expect. And I know I don't have the time to go around putting together a criminal case. If you were going to try to sue somebody, it's going to take several years if you're going to take them to civil court, and probably $50,000 or $60,000 to sue somebody in civil court. Small claims court is different, but this is bigger than a small claims issue, right? And it's still going to be extremely expensive.
Yeah, and as I think another person has said before, you're not going to get blood out of a stone either. There is no debtor's prison. If the guy really has no money and you sue him and you win a verdict for $100,000, you're still going to get $0,000.
The answer is to be very, very, very careful about people who you're going to work with. I mean, that's the only solution. And you gotta kind of keep your eyes open and be watching that. And there is a reason why I don't take life insurance downline agents. I don't want to.
Adam,
I was told when I was an employee with a prior company I was with that the Department of Insurance doesn't really care about these little $10,000 debts. To them, it's nothing. Yeah. They're wanting to go after these guys that are committing fraud for multi-million-dollar sort of things. To them, a $25,000 debt, it's not worth their time. Unfortunately, it sucks for us, but to the Department of Insurance, they don't care about $25,000.
Yeah, it's small fry.
What if we could get the carriers No, we're not going to get the carriers to do anything. Let's be realistic here. But we as an industry got the carriers to be stricter on advances because I think in a lot of ways the technology to notify us of a problem isn't as available as we would like it to be. I want a tweet that tells me I've got an agent with debt, but that doesn't exist. What if the carriers didn't advance more than $10,000 a month to any particular street level agent? Would
You would
I?
you would have agents screaming bloody murder. Like that's the thing is like
But
it's a,
fine. I mean, realistically, okay. So what if you do have a $20,000 nut a month to crack? Let's crack some nuts. Can't you place the next 20 you need with another carrier? Like, okay? Maybe it's 15. At how much do you really need to be advanced as a single producer on a monthly basis?
I mean, so like there's a company who's no longer who's brokering only now, but who's not brokering, who's captive only now, who's not brokering anymore, but who used to start all of their agents off as earned until they'd hit a point where they'd written, I think, like $25,000 worth of business. They were as earned for the first $25,000 of commissions, and then they had a commission cap that started at $5,000
Mhm.
and a month, and you had to work your way up to beyond that. But at the same time, there are also fairly large companies who are out there advertising, day one commission payments, on issue, on acceptance, not on issue. 100% advance, no cap. Like the industry wants they want you to take that. They want to get these people who are going to come in and who are desperate to get a little bit of quick cash and write a few policies and hope that a few of them stick. And like they this is what the industry wants.
Yeah. See, I think what we're describing though is that mid hierarchy level type problem where we're the first level of we take the I was gonna say the F word, probably can't. We're gonna take the brunt of the first wave of debt, and it's
Yeah.
not gonna get to this level ever. Really, ever,
Well, that's
ever.
right. That's the whole reason why an IMO exists in the first place, right? IMOs exist to prevent the insurance company from having to take the debt risk.
Exactly. Adam, I want to get your insight on something because you just got a nice upload of 85 direct mail leads for your Illinois agency. I think that's going to be an amazing amount of premium. But lead program leading you to business and making sure that it is quality business. The guys you're working with in Illinois, you know for a fact the business they're writing has to be coming from a lead. And the peace of mind you're getting building locally with that kind of lead program versus a broker agent where you see a piece of business come in and you don't know if it's a lead, his friend, his cousin, his uncle, or a complete fraud in that situation.
Yeah, well, again, and I think a lot of people are afraid of the sort of lead program that we're putting together or things that I'm doing with my guys when it comes to lead financing. They're afraid of agents, just taking the leads and going write them wherever. And again, I mean, I think that it just you gotta be careful. You gotta be in good control of kind of the situation. This is a local thing that I'm doing, but I kind of look at it as if it doesn't work out with the leads, well, I can go out and work those leads. So I think that you got to be careful. You can't contract in a program like that. I mean, heck, I can't contract these guys with 20 different companies. That's way too many options, especially if they owe one carrier money for the leads. So, if anything, I can put them on as earned, maybe with some additional carriers. But we're keeping it simple. We're focusing on like 3 main carriers and focusing really on just the one. If they can write it with the one, great. If not, we have a couple backups. And that's really all you need. We talk about keeping things simple, not having to really write business all over the globe. And again, these guys, I mean, new to the business, just licensed like 3 or 4 months ago. What I like about that though, too, these guys are coachable. They're not, they don't hear the word out there about how you got to be contracted with 30 different companies that all do the same thing. Cause I kind of disagree with that whole method. But yeah, I mean, it's just like we talked, like you asked about the leads. Yeah, I feel much more comfortable working with guys when I know that they have leads. I'm getting them the leads and I know where that business is coming from, rather than all of a sudden you see someone writing all this business and you have no idea where it's coming from. And it's very risky.
Very
So
scary.
I think it's better to start if you're looking to build an agency, you're better to start slow and work with people rather than throw as much up against the wall and see what sticks. I'd rather have 10 agents writing 10 grand a month than 100 agents each putting in 1,000 in premium each month. Another thing to think about too, these people that just write an app or two every month, if one of those pieces of business falls off, like what's the chances of them going out to rewrite that business? They already got paid on it. They're not like consistently writing. I don't think like at that point they even really care that much about the debt.
Yeah, we're going to wrap up in just a moment here as Nick and I both have to jump off. Time went quicker than I expected. Adam, share with me, Nick, do you have 5 seconds or we got to let you go?
Yeah, I got 5 seconds.
Close us up with this thought here. Fatherhood, family balance. Like, it's nice to run an agency. It's nice to run leads. It's nice to make money. But how do you fit in the family part of this when you're dealing with all that agency level responsibilities?
Who's that going to?
You. We'll let you wrap up that question.
All right. You got to get your family on board. Like, I'd said before that like activity is the most important thing, but I lied. Really, the most important thing is having your family on board. You got to get everybody involved. My wife reminded me earlier this morning that when I was first getting started, that I did my presentation when I was trying to learn it so often that my daughter, when she was picking up the phone and pretending to play with her toy phone as a 3-year-old, would pick up the phone and say, "Hello, this is Nick Frumpkin with the Pennsylvania Senior Benefit Service." That's just how she thought people answered the phone. Like, so you got to get your family on board. Everybody's got to be pulling in the same direction. This can be an amazing business. This can be a really great life working in this business. But if your whole life at home is not in order and on board, it's not going to work. And eventually rapidly you get to the point where you can prioritize that. But you do have to get up off the ground first. You got to know what you're doing and get going before you can make that happen. And that's going to take having everybody in your life support you and, wind at your back type of a situation.
Well said. I appreciate you being on with us today. We're going to go to Adam to close up that question. Adam, one of the reasons why I think not just family under one roof is important, but family in the business is important is what we got to do last weekend. Go to a place that is not cold. Chicago is cold. Maryland's cold. Pennsylvania's cold. Go to somewhere warm, Fort Lauderdale, and not just go and talk shop for 3 days straight. That it gets a little stale, but get the wives together, get the family together, get people together, because the industry is not the same without that. So when we talk about the importance of family, like Nick shared, maybe share your insight on getting people together in the family, but in the industry together, if you kind of catch my drift.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, well, first thing I would say, I kind of agree with Nick where, he mentioned you got to really, your family's got to be on your side with the business that we're in. I think there's a lot of agents, maybe they get into business where their significant others don't really understand the business, and they don't understand that it's strictly commission. There's no benefits. Like when it comes to health insurance, you're on your own with all that stuff, and you're basically just betting on yourself. Some people can handle it, some people can't. But yeah, you got to make sure. I mean, you got to make sure that your significant other, your family is on your side. Talking about the flexibility of the business, me and you being able to take a trip last week, that was nice. Our wives getting together, hanging out, getting to know each other, all good things. But yeah, at the end of the day, again, the flexibility in our business is great too, but it's something that you got to be responsible with. I just found out yesterday I'm going to be coaching baseball this year with my little one. So that's going to take up a little bit of time. I'll just have to rearrange my schedule a little bit with that. But that's the nice thing about our business is that we are able to do those sort of things. I will be able to schedule some practices, for times that maybe usually I'd be working and just have to make up for that other times where other careers out there, you got a boss, he tells you this is when you got to be at work and this is when time you're going to be able to leave. And that's just how it's going to be. If your kid's got a game or something, well, too bad. So, that's the great thing about our business is the flexibility, as long as you're responsible with it. And like I said, kind of make up for time that you're taking off to do those sort of things, making up other times where to get back to work to make up for it.
Well said. Appreciate you guys joining us this afternoon. It's time to run. More things to do, places to be, people to help, money to make. If you watch today's video, comment if you catched it later, subscribe to the channel, like the video. And if you're just listening to us, thank God you didn't have to look at us. Thanks for catching us on audio as well. Take care.